Hello, everybody. Scott Golden here with the Mid South Wrestling Review Series for the 14th of July 1984. And we continue to bring you quality content into 2021 and beyond. Unfortunately, that means starting the year with SmackDown. Not thrilled with that idea. But that will be later tonight. My goal is to get as many of the Mid South 1984 shows as I can record it. The good news is I'm done with 84 and actually started to watch 85 this morning with my breakfast, so we're good there in between clients and all of that. Hercules and Dr. Death versus Jim Duggan and Taylor. Terry Taylor. Duggan and Taylor, an interesting team to say the very least. And it goes without saying that that is a team that may not exactly be, a permanent fixture in the area, but at the same time, we have seen them align a little bit before. Hercules Hernandez, I don't think under the official tutelage of Jim Cornette yet, but that's where that ends up. Certainly, without a shadow of a doubt, Hercules Hernandez, a major force in Mid South while he's here, but also a major force in pro wrestling in general for the next several years. A guy that many people probably, I wouldn't say necessarily fully admired, but enjoyed, and wrestling world probably would be a lot different without his influence in the late 80s. The Billy Jack Haynes WrestleMania match is still notable for one of the bigger blade jobs in the area. But Hercules and Dr. Death, an interesting team. Again, that kind of also cements Dr. Death's heel run, and that's a thing in itself too. Uh, Wade Pierce, I got to admit, wears some interesting clothing, and he does so here. Cornette introduces his alliance with Hercules and getting Dr. Death under his tutelage. Interesting that you would have a guy like Cornette, who is a tag guy, managing a different team, but I think it's more along the lines of getting Hercules over in a major program early. Duggan and Hercules, which is a weird combination. I don't know that they ever went at it in WWF, but they go at it here. Duggan comes across with clothesline early, and Cornette is less than happy, as one would expect. Duggan and Dr. Death here. They do some switch work. Meanwhile, Terry Taylor comes in via the second rope on the inside with the double axe handle, works the arm into the hammerlock and arm bars for several minutes. Doc comes back with a good bit of brawling. Sunset flip by Taylor. Taylor comes out ahead in that exchange. Near fall, but not a victory. Again, Doc and Taylor were once friends. That friendship pretty well dissolving here. Takeover by Doc, and Doc carrying or forcing Terry Taylor to carry his weight. Irish whip by Taylor, and again the sunset flip takeover, or the hip lock takeover. Duggan comes back in and stomps away at Doc. Sends him into the buckle shoulder first, so it shows that even a collegiate style wrestler can register some pain upon occasion. Again, Duggan with the shot to the arm, and Taylor comes back in, drops the knee on the arm. They're getting several minutes out of working the arm and shoulder of Doc. I'm not necessarily sure why you don't bring Hercules in, but he comes in off the hot tag. Maybe they're trying to protect him because he's a newer guy and you don't necessarily want him to do a whole lot early. Tag off Duggan and Hercules, and Duggan go at it again. This time, Duggan again with a good bit of deal there. Cornette with a trip, and Duggan goes to the outside. Dr. Death beats down on their adversary there, and Cornette's involvement and the double team leads to the disqualification victory there. Buddy Landell and Steve Bryson Landell, obviously, still a man without a direction, kind of. It appears that his alliance with Butch Reed cooling off a little bit, cut off by Landell early. Landell with the body slam, and comes off with the knee drop, the Flair style, Harley Race style knee drop, and gets it again. And the Irish whip into the corner, kicks by Landell. Landell not wanting to take any backward steps or backward motion. Gut wrench suplex by Landell sits him down with the inverted chin lock there. Landell certainly willing to go at a slower pace than the average person would be or is. Hard shots, Bryson kind of working back up and manages to do that as well. Um, Tags by Landell, and ultimately Irish whips. Landell manages a back elbow and uh, manages to hook the leg, and again, ultimately, after that elbow, gets the victory. Butch Reed and Mike Jackson up next. Reed fallen quite a bit since losing the North American Championship several months ago, less than a year ago, but still quite a fall for Butch Reed from where he once was in the pecking order of the promotion. Anyway, Jackson kind of here as the enhancement talent du jour, and Reed manages to do a lot of talking. Also, still wearing bandages from perhaps a month ago with the ghetto street fight with the dog. Uh, Side headlock takeovers after some arm drags by Jackson. Jackson always kept competitive in the matches he has, at least here in Mid South. I don't know if it's that way other places. Hard shots and punches by Reed. Reed tries to get any advantage he can over his adversary, even if it's an underhanded one. Irish whip by Reed. Reed cuts him off, uses the power wherever he can, backbreaker and the like. Very basic stuff by Butch Reed, and Reed really does stalk around the ring trying to slow things down to the best of his ability and kind of get things going in a way in which he wants to go. We see the use of the chair by Sonny King, who comes in and makes a visual pin for Mike Jackson. Obviously, the referee calls the match off. Disqualification there. King and Reed have their issue because of Reed laying him out in previous weeks. PYT, Pretty Young Thing Express versus Bob Brown and Dale Vestry. I assume they're called Express because the Rock and Roll Express isn't here for a little while. They do return before the end of the year, but they're not here at the moment, and so the Express name probably gives credence. Of course, Norvell Austin and Coco Ware are the Express of the moment. Um, and Austin manages to get um, some basic stuff, hip tosses, arm locks, and the like. He's willing to do whatever it takes to get things going his way. Big body slam there by Austin, and Ware comes in a little bit later. Anyway, Coco Ware coming from Memphis, having a little bit more, I guess, finesse than Austin, perhaps. Big back elbows and a good double teams by the Pretty Young Things. Coco even here in 1984 doing the dancing he'd become known for later. Double teams by the baby faces. Meanwhile, Rock and Roll Midnight Express makes their way in, interfering. Jim Cornette calling the shots, basically trying to whip the Pretty Young Things, but the Pretty Young Things send them packing. So the match is there as the impetus of kind of furthering the angle between the Pretty Young Things and the Midnight Express. Crusher Khrushchev against Sonny King. Khrushchev still upset with everything. Khrushchev wearing the old noose around the neck that Nikolai Volkov used to wear. I believe Volkov has left by this point, haven't seen him in several weeks. King comes back, several punches, and catches him under the chin a couple of times. Meanwhile, Khrushchev, not impressed with this, gets locked up in the go behinds, hammerlocks, and the like, really basic stuff along the way. King kind of gets hooked up, kick off by King, and ultimately, um, kind of trying to hook him up. Arm locks, arm bringers, and the like, hard shots by Khrushchev, and Khrushchev manages to get a kind of get a flip over there. Um, Hard shots, and including a short knee by Khrushchev. Khrushchev with the uh, knee along the way, and a hard shot by Khrushchev to the midsection keeps the elbow coming. King finally does end up fighting back a little bit, but Khrushchev takes the match down to the canvas with the inverted face lock and all of that. King tries to fight his way back to a vertical base. Does for a minute, but not very long. Does manage to get that advantage going in his way. Meanwhile, King fights his way back to his feet, as much brawling as he can, and manages to bring Khrushchev out of the corner, and that continues the fight. Meanwhile, the use of the chair, and King is basically wanting more of Khrushchev. Then we go to Magnum TA and Buddy Landel. It kind of seems unfinished. Obviously, Magnum's still your North American champion. Here, things seem a little unfinished because it was originally Ernie Ladd that asked for that opportunity. Landel comes in. I do believe Ladd still ends up getting the opportunity, and even though Landel has asked for the opportunity, he's kind of begging off and face to face with Magnum. The belt that Magnum wears is huge. They go round and round pretty quickly. Magnum with some hip tosses and arm drags, dominant of Landel pretty early. Landel doing a lot of begging off, a lot of backward motion. Meanwhile, there is a briefcase with Ernie Ladd at ringside, wearing or having some sort of involvement there. I'm sorry, I believe that's a Butch Reed and Landel along the way. Meanwhile, and the benefit of Ernie Ladd is also there. Nothing gets finished in the match between the two. Disqualification, and the babyface gets laid out. Magnum gets laid out. Fantastics against Hans Schroeder, and Pat Rose is going to close your program here today. They're given about 4 minutes, a little bit less than that. The Fantastics, as mentioned, don't go as far in this particular version of Mid-South as they would in later years. They're kind of here without complete direction. Fulton and Rogers, obviously the team there. Tommy Rogers, not as well known as perhaps he should be. Fantastic guy. Get some ride time on one of the enhancement talents pretty easily here. Fantastics end up having one of the better feuds with the Midnight Express, other than the Rock and Roll Express. Probably obviously Midnight's and Rock and Roll, the feud for the Midnight Express, but it's there. Big back body drop by Rogers. Rogers works over the arm. Fulton comes in, uses the second rope, gets an advantage as best he can. Irish whip and shoulder tackle. Meanwhile, Fulton over the shoulder and a big hip toss, kickoff, and tip up there. Ultimately, several shots and a backdrop for the Fantastics. Schroeder gets a lot of an advantage early. Rose comes back in, tries to take things going his direction, and we have, for the first time in a long while, an unfinished match here on Mid-South as we come to the second half of July here in this year. We'll be back with more right after this.